sure everybody will understand.
Hopefully, hopefully.
Yeah. Put that up. Here we go.
I will say I do remember when it first came into my consciousness. When I was in high school, I used to subscribe to a news magazine, Time magazine, and in October of 1965, I remember reading about the Nobel Prize to Jacob, Monod, and Loaf. And I remember seeing a picture of them standing in front of the Pasteur Institute in Paris and thinking, my, that is the peak of sophistication. I want to be that one of these days myself. The thing that excites me and that continued to excite me was in discovering how cells work, how processes work, teasing apart the molecules. And that has to be the biggest reward, is making a fundamental discovery. That's an unfortunate consequence of Alfred Nobel's will, where he said that it could be to no more than 3 individuals. So, you know, I feel very strongly that the work that I did was largely because of this fellow whose name I mentioned in the picture I showed, Peter Novick. Maybe I could have done it without him, but you know, it made it it was much easier and faster because the guy was such a terrific scientist in the lab. So I wish I could have shared it with him, but it wasn't my choice. I've taken a very strong position on open access publication and a strong view on how scientists should be in charge of making decisions about what gets published. And so on the day of the Nobel Prize ceremony, I published an editorial in the Guardian newspaper that was very critical of the dominant journals in biomedical science, these journals Nature, Science, and Cell. And I criticized them very specifically for the model that they use and how they decide what gets published. And at the same time, that morning, I had a debate with an editor of Science magazine on BBC Radio Network live from Stockholm. So, and I have continued to take a very strong position against the influences of largely these commercial journals like Elsevier and Springer Nature, which I think have exerted a toxic influence on biomedical science. And I couldn't have taken these positions that anyone would listen to unless I had this soapbox of a Nobel Prize. I'm hopeful that there's a lot of pressure. This Plan S will encourage people to publish in open access journals, and the big commercial enterprises are going to have to scale back their aspirations. I mean, a company like Elsevier, they're pirates. I mean, they make money, the profit margin of Elsevier is higher than any other company in the world. They make over a 40% profit on the journal because they charge you to publish, they charge you to read your own publications. They are just, they're pirates. So these people need to be taken down. Young people are victims. In fact, we're all victims of this system. And I do what I can to try to fight this, not just through my personal publication choices, but I started an open access journal called eLife, which has had a major role, I think, in advancing the position that scholarship should be evaluated by active scientists. And I'm hopeful that my journal and other journals will take charge of this. I think right now the system is broken, and young people are victims. I understand the reasons for their choices, but it needn't be this way. Young people can choose to publish in journals where the decisions are made by active scholars, and I know many young people who do this, and their careers don't suffer. So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy when people think they have to publish in these journals to get ahead. It isn't necessary. That's a big challenge. It's a disease that's been around for a long time with very little progress. So I'm hoping to organize a research effort that's somewhat different than what has gone on thus far. I want to particularly call on people who are really skilled in collaboration. You know, the problem with academic science is that the way we're evaluated is by individual achievements. And collaboration is encouraged, but not necessarily rewarded. And I want to design a funding system that rewards collaborative effort, because I think that through collaboration you can actually make more meaningful discoveries. And my best case of that was a 15-year-long collaboration with Lele Orci in Geneva, which we had, we published many papers together. We talked practically every day by phone to talk about new experiments. It was amazing. And he had a completely different approach to this problem than I did, but the two together were very powerful. So that kind of collaboration can really make progress, and I want to try to build a mechanism that will encourage that kind of work focused on Parkinson's disease.